Alright, look at this. This is around the default field of view settings that a lot of games start you off at. Now watch what happens when I change just one setting. Look at that. It looks like I'm moving 2 or 3 times faster, but I didn't change my movement speed at all. The only thing I changed was my field of view. And if you've never heard of field of view or FOV, don't worry. I'm going to show you exactly what it does and why it makes such a huge difference and what you should actually set yours to. So let's get right into it. So first, what does field of view actually mean? If you've seen FOV sitting in your settings before and had absolutely no idea what it meant, it's actually really simple. Field of view is basically how much of the game you can see on your screen at one time. The lower your FOV is, the more zoomed in everything looks. The higher the FOV is, the more zoomed out everything looks, and the more you can see around you. Here, I'll show you. This is 60 FOV, and look at the left and right sides of my screen. Here's 80, here's 100, and here's 120. Look how much more of the map I can see without moving my character at all. And that's where the name comes from. You're literally increasing your field of view. But here's what gets interesting, because watch what happens when I start moving. I'm going to sprint through the exact same area twice. First, we're going to do it on really low FOV. Look at that. It doesn't necessarily look terrible, but it looks pretty slow. Now I'm going to increase the FOV and run through the same area again. That looks way faster. But here's the weird part. I'm actually not moving faster. Changing your FOV doesn't magically increase your character's sprint speed. If two players race each other and one is playing on 60 FOV and the other is playing on 120, they're not suddenly going to separate because of the setting. They're still moving at the same actual speed. What's changing is your perspective, and the easiest way to see this is to stop staring at the middle of your screen and look at the edges. When you're using a higher FOV, objects on the edges of your screen move past you much faster visually. Walls, buildings, cars, pretty much anything close to you. You have more peripheral vision, so you're seeing all of that movement happening around you, and your brain basically interprets that as, we're moving fast. It's kind of like driving. If you're looking at something really far away, it barely looks like it's moving. But look out the side window at something right next to the car, it's flying past you. Higher FOV gives you more of that peripheral movement. That's why when somebody switches from a really low FOV to something like 105 or 110, the game can suddenly look insanely fast. And once you get used to it, going back feels horrible. But here's the thing, the game looking faster isn't even the biggest reason I think you should change this. The biggest advantage is actually how much information you're getting on your screen. Like for example, in Call of Duty, if you run into a room and you're on a low FOV, you might not see a guy that you could see on 120 FOV. That can literally be the difference between seeing someone and dying without ever knowing they were there. And in a fast shooter, that's huge. Think about how many times you've died and thought, where'd that guy even come from? Sometimes they weren't actually that hidden, they were just outside of your field of view. And I think you notice this even more in close range gunfights. Let's say somebody slides past you in Call of Duty or somebody runs right past you in Battlefield. At a low FOV, they can leave your screen incredibly quickly because your visible area is so narrow. Now you're trying to turn around and figure out where they went. At a higher FOV, you're seeing more around your character, so tracking somebody moving across your screen can be easier, especially if you're somebody who plays aggressively. And if you're constantly sprinting into buildings, sliding around corners, and fighting multiple people. I'd much rather have more information around me than basically be looking through a tunnel. And this is one reason you'll see a lot of really good FPS players using a higher FOV setting. So why doesn't everyone just use 120 field of view for their settings? Now, this is where people mess up. You hear everything I just said and think, okay, higher is better, I'm putting it on the max. Well, not necessarily, because there is a trade-off. Remember how increasing FOV zooms everything out? Well, that includes enemies. And if you're playing on a smaller monitor or you're sitting farther away from your screen, this can actually make enemies noticeably harder to see. That's the downside. You gain peripheral vision, but everything in front of you becomes smaller. And if you go way too high, you can end up hurting yourself more than helping yourself. This is why I don't think everybody should blindly copy a streamer or professional player who uses 120. Maybe 120 works perfectly for them. That doesn't automatically mean it's going to work perfect for you. If you're constantly missing people at long range because they're tiny on your screen, who cares that you can see half the map? You're still dying. And depending on the game, extremely high FOV can also give the image that stretched look around the edges. Some people don't care about that at all. Other people absolutely hate it. So we're trying to find the sweet spot. Enough FOV that the game feels fast and you can get good peripheral vision without making everything look microscopic. So if you've never changed your FOV before, here's what I'd recommend. Don't immediately go from something like 70 straight to 120. Start somewhere around 100. Play a few games, not 30 seconds, actually play for a little bit. If 100 still feels too zoomed in, go to 105, then maybe 110. And keep adjusting it until you find that point where you can see plenty around you, the game looks fast, but enemies still look big enough that you're comfortable shooting them. For a lot of players, I think that sweet spot is going to be around somewhere 100 to 110. Personally, if I had to give someone a number to start with, I'd say 105. It's a really good middle ground. You're getting a huge improvement compared to a really low FOV without going completely crazy, then adjust from there. And here's something I want you to actually try instead of just taking my word for it. Go into whatever shooter you play, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Apex, whatever, find somewhere you can stand still, look at something directly in front of you, and take your FOV all the way down. And pay attention to what you can see on your left and right sides of your screen, then take it all the way up. Don't move your character, just change the setting. The difference is ridiculous. Then sprint around for a minute at the lowest setting. After that, put it back around 105 to 110. You're probably going to feel like somebody just gave your character a speed boost. And once you play like that for a while, try going back down. That's when you'll really notice it. Now, I want to make something clear because I know somebody's going to hear the 3 times faster and immediately go, FOV doesn't increase movement speed. Well, that's correct. You're not actually multiplying your character's movement speed by 3. That's not what I'm saying. The point is the perception of speed changes dramatically. And that's actually important because shooters aren't just numbers happening behind the scenes. You're reacting to what you see. When movement looks faster and you're seeing more of the environment around you, the entire game can feel more responsive and energetic. So no, you're not going to put your FOV at 120 and suddenly outrun everybody in the lobby. I wish it worked like that, but visually, the difference can be massive. And this is something I don't think people talk about enough. Changing FOV can make the same game feel completely different. Like seriously, take a game you played for hundreds of hours and dramatically change your FOV. It almost feels weird at first. Your sensitivity might seem different, movement seems different, your weapon may look even different, enemies look different, the entire pace of the game looks different. And that's why if you've always thought, why does this person's gameplay look so much faster than mine? This could literally be one of the reasons. You might watch somebody on YouTube absolutely flying around the map and think they're doing some crazy movement technique. Then you play and your game looks slow. They could simply be playing at a significantly higher FOV than you. This also goes into something bigger with FPS settings. People love copying settings. You search best Call of Duty settings, find someone who's insanely good, copy every single number, sensitivity, dead zone, FOV, everything, and then expect to instantly play like them. That's not really how it works. Settings should help you. If somebody plays on 120 FOV because they're sitting 2 feet from a giant monitor and you're sitting across the room playing on a TV, those settings might be terrible for you. Same thing with sensitivity. There isn't one magical number that makes everybody better. There are good starting points, but after that, you need to actually adjust things based on how you play. And FOV is probably one of the easiest settings to experiment with because you can immediately see what it's changing. Here's what I would use for different playstyles. So if you're somebody who plays really aggressive, you're constantly pushing, running SMGs, getting into close range fights, I'd lean toward a higher FOV, maybe 105 to 120. That extra peripheral vision is really useful when you're constantly surrounded by players. If you're more balanced, you take close range fights, but you're also shooting people across the map, I'd probably say maybe 100 to 110. And if you're somebody who really struggles seeing enemies at distance, maybe try 90 to 100. There's nothing wrong with using a lower number if you actually play better with it. That's what matters, not whether your settings look like some professional players' settings. And depending on the game you're playing, you might also see another setting related to FOV when you're aiming down sights. This can be called different things depending on the game, and this is where settings start getting a little more complicated. Some games let your field of view change when you aim, others let you keep more of that wider perspective. If you're changing these settings, don't change 10 things at once. That's probably the worst thing to test settings on. Change your normal FOV first, get comfortable, then start messing with ADS related settings. Because if you change everything at the same time and suddenly your aim feels horrible, you're not going to know which setting caused that. So what I'd do right now is start with 105 FOV, play a few matches. If enemies look too small, drop it to 100. If you still feel too zoomed in, try 110. If you absolutely love the crazy fast look and don't have trouble seeing people, go to 115 to 120. There isn't a perfect number for everybody, but I think somewhere in that 100 to 110 range is going to be a really good place for most people to start. And whatever you choose, give yourself time to adjust. You know, if you spent years playing on a really low FOV, 105 might look insane the first time you use it. That's normal. Play a few games before deciding you hate it. So yeah, that's field of view. It's one of those settings that's incredibly simple once you understand it, but if nobody ever explains what it does, it's really easy to completely ignore it. And if your character has always looked slower than gameplay you see online, go check your field of view. You might be surprised how big of a difference one setting makes. And I'm actually curious what everybody uses because I know people are going to argue about this one. So comment your FOV below. 90, 100, 105, 110, 120, and if you're still sitting there playing on 60, We need to have a conversation. And thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.